A long way to go before we have an official winner. A nervous Trump's natural reaction overnight to baselessly claim victory and fraud. Today, he's asking for a recount in Wisconsin while filing a lawsuit in Michigan to halt the counting of ballots there. Wisconsin and Michigan both now in Joe Biden's column as wins for him. It is all forcing Republicans and Trump allies to contemplate breaking from him, including Mitch McConnell and Chris Christie, a former U.S. attorney who says Trump's baseless claims this early on are a telling and bad political move.
There's just no basis to make that argument tonight. There just isn't. All these votes have to be counted that are in now. In Pennsylvania, the argument won't even start in Pennsylvania until tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. There comes a point where you have to let the process play itself out before you judge it to have been flawed. And I think by prematurely doing this, if there is a flaw in it later, he has undercut his own credibility in calling attention to that flaw.
Let's bring into our conversation Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney, professor at the University of Alabama School of Law, and lucky for us, an MSNBC contributor. Michael Steele, Robert Gibbs, and Donna Edwards are still with us. Joyce, I mean, what Chris Christie said probably was too cerebral for Donald Trump to understand, but on the merits, what do you think Donald Trump thinks the argument is that he's making?
It's clear that he's out of arguments to make, Nicole, because if you thought that you were winning or if you thought it was close, the last thing that you would do is start making these frivolous claims, stopping the counts in states that you're afraid will hurt you, challenging other places. You would just let the votes get counted. And so really the biggest argument against the way the president is conducting himself is the president's own conduct. It reveals that he doesn't believe that he's the winner in this election.
What is the end game? I mean, it's clear that there's no one around the president willing to say to him in private what Chris Christie and Rick Santorum and others are willing to say with some distance from him. And I guess for Chris Christie, 7 days in the ICU lets him speak truth to his friend Donald Trump. But I guess my question is, what damage can Donald Trump do with the levers of the U.S. government? He's certainly shown himself willing to use the White House counsel's office as his own defense attorney, the Justice Department as his own arm of his political efforts. What damage can Donald Trump do with something that, as you said, is meritless, but still he's the president?
If we're talking about challenging the vote, the expectation is that the judiciary will prevent that. He can't simply go into court with bogus claims. He has to have a non-frivolous claim in order to get anywhere. And at least so far, as Chris Christie says, it doesn't look like he has a non-frivolous claim. But I suppose in a larger sense, this is the point where we find out if there are any of those notorious legendary guardrails. We are in a dangerous moment. There is no doubt that the president will continue to try to trash norms and do damage to the country in order to protect himself. And it will be up to the three branches of government to try to muster some semblance of normalcy to prevent it.
Donna, let me bring you back into this and read you something that Dan Balls wrote. Dan Balls, one of the most sort of unflappable and measured political reporters and observers of our presidential politics. He wrote this today: a president who respected the Constitution would let things play out. But Trump has shown once again he cares not about the Constitution or the stability and well-being of the country or anything like that. What the president did and did from inside the White House itself, rather than from a neutral site, was not an act of a confident leader. Instead, it was a sign of the desperation he must feel as he watches his presidency on the brink. Do you agree with that, Donna?
I do, and I think Dan Balls has really nailed it here. I mean, if we saw this kind of behavior in Belarus or Hungary or you name Nigeria, we would be calling out the observers. We'd be going to the United Nations. So this kind of behavior is really dangerous. We really are at an inflection point where we get to make a decision about whether we're going to stand on the side of democracy or we're going to continue to let one person, one man undermine all of our pillars of democracy. And I think that, Americans, even by a slim margin, maybe are making that choice. But we have to have it ring out, because this really cannot stand. I mean, the president is in very dangerous territory, and it's not going to take one or two Republicans calling it out. It's going to take all of them.
So speaking of calling it out, Michael Steele, let me read what Mike Pence said. And I just have to say, it is too late for Mike Pence. He can't get off the ship, but he tried, it would appear, with this quote. Mike Pence overnight, quote, while the votes continue to be counted, we're going to remain vigilant, as the president said. The right to vote has been at the center of our democracy since the founding of this nation, and we're going to protect the integrity of the vote. First of all, it's pretty parse, but second of all, he's working for a guy trying to do the opposite. Protecting the integrity of the vote means not declaring victory, means saying, I'm going to make sure that every vote is counted before I say or do anything. Do you think this was a little bit of legacy protecting, bet hedging? What was that from Mike Pence?
I think it was because I watched him when he spoke to the president, and it really was, you could tell it was a moment where he was like, why didn't you just read what was on the teleprompter? It was that kind of a moment, and he felt like, okay, I got to clean this up, and that's cleaning it up. But because he's still, regardless of how he tries to cut this thing, a part of this administration, which has been anti-constitutional, and it's been anti-dogmatic, it's been anti-tradition, it's been anti-principle and value sets that have been articulated by a once proud Republican Party for over 150 years. So, what do you say? I mean, you're going to stand in that moment and go, well, we have to count every vote when the guy standing next to you just declared, I want every vote not to be counted? So, he's going to have to reconcile that legacy on the other side of all of this. And already the Ben Sasses and others are starting to position themselves for what will be one hell of a fun fight to watch for the nomination in 4 years.
I'm popping popcorn. Joyce, let me give you the last word and take this from the other side. Bob Bauer, who oversees all legal efforts for the Biden campaign, has for days and weeks now sounded extremely confident and extremely prepared. And some of that might be because Donald Trump has done this all publicly. There wasn't a secret plan to sue his way to re-election. It was on his Twitter feed and at his rallies. But is it because the law is on his side, or is it because they've done this before? Or what does your understanding of sort of the legal landscape tell you about the Biden campaign position here?
Bob is not somebody who ever exudes false confidence. He's a pretty straight shooter. Mm-hmm. And this is, I think, the opposite of that old chestnut that we've talked about. If you're a lawyer, if the facts are on your side, pound the facts. If the law's on your side, pound the facts. If neither's on your side, pound the table. Well, I think in this setting, he has got the facts and the law. There's no need for him to pound. He will simply move forward quietly and competently. He has put together an incredible team of leading experts, of people who are very good working at every level in the courts. And this will be a very precise operation, but it will be an operation that's designed to protect the vote, the integrity of the vote, to make sure that Americans' voices are counted. That is the goal here, to let the votes be counted and then let the chips fall where they may.
It's just extraordinary that one party is for that and the other clearly against. Joyce Vance, thank you for helping us make sense of this legal phase. We're grateful. Michael Steele, Robert Gibbs, Donna Edwards sticking around. When we come back, Joe Biden is rebuilding the Democrats' blue wall, it would appear, with big victories today in Michigan and Wisconsin. Our coverage of that continues after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Wow, my goodness.
Before Voltaren and arthritis pain gel, my husband would have been on the sidelines.
People, what do you guys think about this? I mean, I've been watching this from last night to this morning. When they called for the pause or the stop of the counting, that happened around 2, 3 o'clock this morning. And it was just something else. It really, really was. I was like, it was just going everywhere. The counts was going everywhere. And got up this morning, they was still going for it, which they said they was going to continue in the morning. I feel exhausted for the people that's counting the votes already. I really do. I already feel exhausted for you guys. I'm like, oh my goodness, people. I know you guys got to be tired. I know them people got to be tired counting all them daggone ballots. I know they got to be beyond themselves, just counting and counting and counting again. It's just, woo-wee. I would have got up and left out. Whoever's counting, they cannot be a cigarette smoker. You cannot have a bad bladder. And you got to be very focused because, doing all that counting. And, this is my thing with Georgia. I don't know, did Georgia come in yet? But we waiting on Fulton County and DeKalb County left. Y'all already know what that means. Y'all already know what DeKalb County and Fulton County mean. Hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, hey, hey. Y'all know what that means. So what are you guys thinking? How do you think this is going to play out? Leave your comments below. Let me know. What are your thoughts? What do you think the facts are? What do you think is going on? Are people upset? Or, what are you feeling? Are you feeling like Biden's going to do a good job leading and letting us one out? Do you think Trump is going to continue to fight against the votes? What do you guys think? It's been very interesting. I wish I would have started my live from last night, honey. Can y'all imagine? I was a sister would have rocked out. And I was just sitting here thinking, just watching it all day, cleaning and watching it, and doing my children's hair and watching. And I didn't even press the daggone record button for live. I didn't even turn the live on. That's what I should have been done long time ago. Oh my God. Come on, my baby laughing at me. Come on. They can't see me. If they see me, they'll be like, oh man.
Lacey laughing. I'm waiting for it to connect.
Okay. Yes. Oh my goodness. A sister with it has some hours. Hey. Okay, we back on. Hold on. Hold on, y'all.
And it's growing.
I need somebody.
A substantially bigger margin than President Trump won Michigan in 2016.
Joe Biden on the cusp of rebuilding the Democratic blue wall that Donald Trump tore down 4 years ago. NBC News has declared Joe Biden the apparent winner in the state of Wisconsin, which means the result is close enough that it could be affected by a potential recount or confirmation of the vote. And just within the last hour, NBC News projected that Joe Biden will be the winner in the state of Michigan. Let's bring into our conversation Charlie Sykes, editor-at-large for The Bulwark and an MSNBC contributor. Michael Steele, Robert Gibbs, and Donna Edwards are also back. Charlie Sykes, you were so zen last night about the way Wisconsin was going to go, and I know the polls, frankly, the internals on both the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign had Wisconsin going for Joe Biden, but I wonder what you make of what the victory looked like.
Well, one of the reasons why I was reasonably confident about it was I was looking at the votes coming out of Dane County. That's where the city of Madison is, the very, very liberal area. And they had just a massive turnout. Turns out that Joe Biden got a margin of victory of more than 181,000 votes from just this one county. He got 35,000, his margin was 35,000 votes, more than Hillary Clinton. So look, 20,000 votes in Wisconsin is a lot of votes. I know that the Trump folks are talking about a recount, but interestingly enough, former Governor Scott Walker tweeted out kind of a caution. Last time we have had statewide recounts in Wisconsin, it has only moved the number of votes by 100, 200, 300 votes. There's no way that it's going to wipe out to 20,000 votes. So everything is close here. Trump won by 20,000. Scott Walker was defeated by 20,000. Looks like Joe Biden has won by 20,000. That's just politics in Wisconsin in 2020.
I want to read the exact quote from Scott Walker, because I think the significance here is here's a Republican, it would seem, using the airwaves, as most Republicans choose that as their desired method, to talk to the Trump campaign. Scott Walker, former Republican governor, saying, after recount in 2011 race for Wisconsin Supreme Court, there was a swing of 300 votes. After a recount in 2016 presidential race in Wisconsin, Trump numbers went up by 131. As I said, 20,000 is a high hurdle. It seems like a nice way of saying buzz off and take your frivolous lawsuit somewhere else. Is that what Scott Walker is saying, Charlie?
I think that's what he is basically saying. Look, that you can do this, but of course the strategy of the Trump campaign is not necessarily to accomplish anything. It is to sow the chaos. It's just to throw up as much chat as possible here. And by the way, he has signaled this, that his main goal is to make people think that he's not a loser, that this was stolen from him, that he was stabbed in the back somehow, because this is crucial for his narrative. It's crucial for his ego, but it's also crucial for the narrative of the post-Trump presidency, which is, again, that he's the leader of a grievance movement. And, you know, if this had been fair, he would still be the president. Look, 80% of the voters in Wisconsin who voted for Donald Trump absolutely believed that he was going to be reelected. So he is really counting on tens of millions of Americans doubting the legitimacy of this election. Now, it does huge damage, but it's very much on brand. This is who Donald Trump is. We shouldn't be surprised by this. He has been signaling it for months.
You know, and Robert Gibbs, shame on Donald Trump for caring so little about the country that he ostensibly leads and the people who trust him. But what extra challenges? I mean, Joe Biden seems acutely aware of what Charlie Sykes just articulated, like almost like he watches Charlie Sykes say these things on TV and has internalized them. And it's why he never, ever, ever forgoes an opportunity to say, I'm running as a proud Democrat. I will be a president for all Americans.
Now, I need to use something to set this
Yeah,
up.
I think there's no doubt that former Vice President Biden believes that there is some genuine repair work that has to be done